Well, I'll get the ball rolling, if I may. So actually, Michael, you had at the end of your presentation, I believe it was 3 different ways that we can start to affect a positive change. And you talked about food systems by 2050 leading to, I think, 50 to 80% impact is what yeah. Food loss. So my question is, which one could be prioritized out of those 3? And it seems to me like food loss and waste could be the big one.
Do you want to? Diets, to be honest. In terms of the impacts that it has on both health and sustainability, changing diets to be healthier will generally have a larger impact on sustainability than will decreasing food loss and waste or changing production practices.
Thank you for an honest answer.
That's true.
Yes, one question. Do we have someone who might be able to bring a mic
There's
to you?
microphone,
Yes,
right? You have to go to the...
Thank you.
Hi, thank you. I'm Gina Kennedy from Bioversity International, one of the CGIAR centers. My question is a follow-up for Michael. So there's been a very recent study showing that global food production is high on grains, high on sugars, high on oils, and extremely low on fruits and vegetables and pulses. So when we look at what's a healthy diet, and then we look at a sustainable diet, we're not producing anywhere near what we need for neither healthy or sustainable diet. So since we're here speaking with policymakers, could you give your reflections on which directions the policymakers need to go in agriculture policy in order to get even closer to what we need to be eating? Because at the moment, the barriers seem to be it's unaffordable, it's not accessible. We're not producing enough of the right things. So how do we get to a point that's a little more rosy? Thank you.
That's wonderful. I'll just talk loudly. Wow, okay. Is that better? Whatever. So I think there are 2 different things that you can do. One is to incentivize both production and consumption of healthy foods. Right now, at least in the US and the EU, there's a lot of incentive for producers to produce things like maize for either feed or maize for, in the US, high fructose corn syrup. Neither of those is particularly healthy, and it's not particularly sustainable. The other way is, generally get people to appreciate the foods that they're eating and get them to eat foods that they enjoy to eat. And so a slightly different way of putting this is that one of the large things that we should do for being, again, global perspective, to be healthier and more sustainable is to eat less meat. But we're not going to eat less meat as a population if people aren't going to appreciate what they're eating as an alternative to a hamburger or a sausage or whatever you prefer to eat.
I saw one more. Oh, Jess, follow up, and then one more question.
Great point. I think also investing in smallholder farms and farmer families are really important, because a paper came out last year, I think, in Lancet Planetary Health by Mario Herrero and colleagues, basically showing that smallholder farmers are still producing between 50 to 80% of the nutrients in the global food supply, because they have more diverse landscapes. And so I think, it's an argument for investing in smallholder farms, although, all the trends show that there's consolidation and concentration of farmlands. People are leaving rural places, they're leaving farming and the drudgery of farming, but there is something to be said about the smallholder producers still, in that they tend to have more diverse landscapes, more biodiversity, and are producing a lot of nutrients that are being injected into the food supply. So it's one potential solution of investing in them more.
That's a good point. Thank you. So one last question from the audience, sir, and then we'll have to go to the next panel.
I want to thank the panel very much. I'm Youfa Wang from Bao State University in the US, and also from Xi'an Jiaotong University in China. My question is, during recent years, in particular over the past couple of years, we see quite many changes in terms of political, etc., even though we don't want to be political, but food and nutrition. and the disease, etc., which have to be related to policy. My question to the panel is, given these ongoing trends in a number of countries that let's say, globalization, global trade, working together, what will you suggest some of us may do, not only from academia, but also from government agencies? Thank you.
I have been nominated by the panel to take this question, apparently. So I will essentially answer what I can. I'm not a policy person by any means, so please ignore my ignorance. I think, again, what we can do is incentivize eating and producing what needs to be healthy through either government interventions or through non-governmental organizations such as reformulation of food products or educational initiatives or increased access to markets and, in a lot of places, fertilizer subsidies or improved seeds.
I can follow up on that too.
Very hard to see these items up here.
I can follow up on that with an example from Bangladesh. Because in Bangladesh, they've just launched, I think in October, they launched the Country Investment Plan 2. And the subtitle of that is Nutrition Sensitive Food Systems. And what they've done is they've looked at a number of food systems and they've selected a number of which the government would now invest in. And they've done it in a really nice way by getting for the Copenhagen Consensus Group and BRAC to work together and to analyze these nutrition-sensitive food systems as to what effect they would have on healthy diets and what effect they would have on disability life-adjusted years. So I think this is an extremely positive way in which the Bangladesh government is now trying to tackle this issue.
Yeah. Okay, 30 seconds. Obviously, governments need to govern their food systems. We're not seeing enough shepherding and guidance around food systems. And most countries don't really have a holistic food systems policy. They have agriculture policies, they have nutrition strategies, but you really don't see, with the exception of maybe a few countries like Brazil, taking on a more holistic food system policy. But I do think at the same time, while governments need to govern that food system, we have to realize that the private sector, being this big thing with lots of different types of people working under the umbrella of private sector, really is driving food system changes along with consumer demand. So we need to figure out ways for governments to work better with private sector, understand what's happening in their countries, why food systems are changing, how private sector is driving that, how consumer demand is driving that. So to me, it's not just governments and sound policies, it's also how private sector actors are working, how consumer demand is changing with education and urbanization. So to me, it's this whole set and suite of actors that need to come together beyond just a sound food policy. And we really need to be thinking about how to partner better with private sector if we're talking about governments, because they are shaping, and Greg knows this well, he's working at GAIN, they are interacting a lot with the private sector. This is key, and we need to better understand how to partner and govern at the same time.
That's why I didn't cut you off after 30 seconds. Just let her go on. That's what we stand for at GAIN. I think we do need to call to close. You have something burning or? Okay, very, very quickly.
To reiterate, there's really no single solution. You have to do a little bit of everything. It's government, non-government, private. It's changing diets, increasing production, technologies. It's everything.
So that's a great final thought. I think let's give a big round of applause to our presenters.